Hello guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. True God in Another World, Tensura x Tbate, by Tempest_King_20. Chapter 15, Reunion. Rimuru Pav. Our Rimuru. A familiar voice rang out behind me, causing me to stop dead in my tracks. Slowly, I turned to face him. There, before me, stood my father. He had not changed much since the last time I saw him. His body became more lively, and looking at his beard he looked much healthier than before. A mixture of surprise and sheer happiness adorned his face, and a few tears shimmered in his eyes, streaming down his cheeks. Standing beside him was a well-groomed man in a suit, wearing glasses and sporting a neatly parted hairstyle. He had a small brown beard adorning his chin, and his reddish-brown eyes held a mix of disbelief and bewildered joy as he looked between my father and me. Hi Dad, I'm back, I managed to stammer, feeling a tad embarrassed as I awkwardly waved my hand. As soon as the words left my mouth, my father's face lit up with an indescribable expression of overwhelming joy and relief. He ran towards me, embracing me tightly in his arms, tears freely streaming down his face. Overwhelmed by the flood of emotions, tears found their way to my own eyes as I tentatively patted my father's back. Rimuru. My son. You're back, my father shouted, clutching my head to get a better look at my face. The man beside us seemed to grasp the situation to some extent and hastily made his way past us, disappearing into the house momentarily. In no time at all, he emerged, accompanied by my mother. As I changed at my mother, my heart swelled with a mixture of joy and awe. Despite the passage of time, she had retained her youthful appearance, her countenance now revitalized with a newfound vigor. The lines that once marred her face seemed to have faded away, replaced by a radiant glow that emanated from within. Her belly, now prominently rounded, speaks of the imminent arrival of a new life. When her tear-filled eyes locked with mine, it was as if the floodgates of emotion burst open. Tears streamed down her cheeks, carrying with them a blend of disbelief, relief, and overwhelming love. In that moment, time seemed to stand still as she quickly moved towards us. Her steps filled with a sense of urgency and a need for physical connection. She rushed towards us, joining in our embrace, forming a trio wreathed in tears and a sense of disbelief. Oh, my baby, you're alive. You're back. Yes, you're back. My mother's voice trembled with a mixture of relief and overwhelming joy as she collapsed, allowing her tears to flow freely. We remained entwined in the embrace for what felt like an eternity, tears cascading down our cheeks as we momentarily forgot the world around us. Gradually, we began to calm down from our emotional outpouring. My mother, regaining her composure, looked at me with concern etched on her face and asked, "Are you okay? You're not hurt, right? And where's Arthur?" Her eyes darted around anxiously, searching for any sign of my brother. "Calm down, Alice. Let him rest for a bit. We can talk inside," my father interjected, his voice filled with concern as he tried to pacify my mother's mounting anxiety. Nodding in agreement, my mother took a deep breath and loosely wrapped her arm around my waist, leading me towards the house. Stepping through the threshold, we were greeted by the man who had been with my father earlier, standing expectantly. Beside him stood a woman, who I assumed was his wife. Her ebony locks cascaded down her back, and her crystal blue eyes shone with warmth and curiosity. Peeking out from behind her mother, a little girl regarded me with great curiosity. Clutching her mother's dress shyly, she possessed beautiful hazel eyes resembling those of a feline. Her long hair was styled in neat braids, giving her an aura of innocence that spoke of her tender age. I couldn't help but imagine the future beauty that awaited her. Placing his hand gently on my shoulder, my father gestured towards the awaiting individuals. You caught a glimpse of them upon my arrival, but allow me to introduce them properly. This is Vincent Helsta, my friend and employer. And this is his wife, Tabitha, along with their daughter Lilia. Vincent, Tabitha, meet my son Rimuru, my father introduced with a warm smile. Tabitha and Vincent exchanged confused glances before redirecting their gazes towards me. Returning their bewildered stares with a gentle smile, I nodded slowly. Hello, just as my father mentioned, I am Rimuru. I understand this must be a lot to take in, but I actually asked my parents to keep my survival a secret. Furthermore, I want to express my deepest gratitude to both of you for aiding my father in his time of need when my brother and I were absent. I spoke sincerely, fully aware of the immense impact their support must have had on my parents during my absence. My brother is currently battling an ailment, a kind of disease. However, he is undergoing treatment under the guidance of Elder, though the process may take some time, I explained, observing a mixture of relief and disappointment ripple through my mother's posture. She understood that Arthur would be all right in due course, but the inability to see him for several years posed a heavy blow. I see, Vincent murmured, while his wife finally spoke up. Why don't you take some time to rest with your parents? I'm sure there's much you wish to discuss. We'll call you for dinner later. Let yourself find peace, Tabitha kindly proposed, taking her daughter's hand as they made their way inside. Vincent followed suit, leaving my parents and me standing in the doorway. With a tender squeeze on my shoulder, my father guided me to the comfortable living room. We carefully took our respective seats, creating a circle of unity. My mother settled on my right side, her warm presence providing a sense of solace. On my left, my father took his place, his presence a steady reminder of strength and protection. As my mother's delicate hand lovingly patted my head, a weak smile graced her lips. Worry lined her voice as she spoke, her concern seeping through her words. Are you okay, my dear? You don't have a disease like your brother, do you? A reassuring smile danced across my face as I met my mother's gaze, intertwining my fingers with hers. Don't worry, Mom. I'm perfectly fine. If I had a disease like Art's, I highly doubt they would have allowed me to travel. I assure you, everything is all right. My father leaned forward, curiosity and relief mingling in his eyes. Rimuru, we were devastated after that incident. We could hardly believe it when we heard your voice, along with your brother's. Please, tell us how you survived the fall. A surge of excitement bubbled within me as I prepared to recount my extraordinary experience. Well, I reached out and picked up a nearby cup, its weight comforting in my hand. Placing it gently on the smooth wooden table, I cast a wave of my hand, channeling my gravity magic into a delicate dance. The cup levitated in midair, the room filled with awe and wonder as my parents stared, their expressions a canvas of shock and astonishment. Why, you deviant? My father exclaimed, his voice tinged with awe and pride. A wide smile adorned his face as he let out a hearty laugh. Ha ha ha, my son is only 4 years old, and he's already a deviant. I cannot express how proud I am. While my mother remained silent, her eyes twinkled with a mixture of pride and adoration. I held her other hand gently, the room brimming with a sense of joy and unity. So, you managed to unlock gravity deflection and used it to slow down your fall? My father inquired eagerly, craving more details. I nodded, my little face beaming with excitement. That's right, but it did drain a lot of my mana, so I passed out shortly after. But rest assured, I was perfectly fine. My father's approving nod followed by my mother's continued gentle patting on my head conveyed their unconditional love and support. After surviving the fall, Art and I found ourselves wandering through the enchanted woods. That's when we stumbled upon an elf girl who was being kidnapped. In a daring act of bravery, we managed to rescue her and brought her back to Eleanor. Concern creased my mother's brow as she voiced her worries. But are you both safe there? Don't elves hate humans? The fear in her voice resonated deeply within me, reminding me of the ancient war between the elves and humans, the deep-rooted animosity that existed between them. A reassuring smile found its way onto my lips as I confidently addressed her concerns. Yes, Mom, we are treated well there. Slowly but surely, people are starting to accept us, and I wouldn't have left Arthur behind if I thought he would be in danger. A relieved sigh escaped my mother's lips, her grip on my hand tightening ever so slightly as her weary eyes met mine. I could see the remnants of the hardships etched into the lines on her face, but there was a glimmer of relief and a spark of hope in her gaze. What about you? I asked softly, my voice a blend of curiosity and concern. Please, tell me everything that happened to you. After my father explained in detail what had transpired, my gaze couldn't help but drift towards my mother's gently rounded belly. A mixture of affection and anticipation filled my voice as I asked, "How is the pregnancy going?" My mother's hand delicately left the comfort of my hair and tenderly rested on her stomach, a radiant smile warming her face. "It's going wonderfully, my dear," she replied, her voice filled with a mix of joy and relief. "The baby is growing strong and healthy. Once we arrived at Helsta, I received ample nutrition and rest, And now I'm in perfect shape. Tabitha and Lilia have been a tremendous help. A sense of gratitude washed over me, mingling with the relief that had already settled in my heart. That's great news. They seem to be more helpful than I thought. I'll surely make sure to thank them very well later, I said, a sense of appreciation blooming within me. My mother nodded in agreement, her eyes reflecting the depth of her gratitude. You're right, my dear. Without their aid, I cannot fathom what would have become of us. A silent acknowledgement passed between my parents, their eyes meeting in a shared understanding, a wordless tribute to the profound impact these friends had on our lives. A resounding knock resonated through the ornate double doors of the room, jolting us all out of the tranquility of the moment. My mother's melodious voice pierced through the silence, beckoning the visitor to enter. In response, the door creaked open, revealing a petite maid who entered with a graceful bow. "Excuse me for interrupting," she murmured with a hint of apology, her voice barely audible above the ambient crackling of the fireplace, "but dinner is ready, and the Helsta family eagerly awaits your presence." "Thank you," my mother replied, her tone both warm and welcoming. The maid acknowledged her words with another reverent bow before hastily retreating from the room, her skirts rustling softly as she vanished into the corridor. "Shall we?" my father exclaimed, pushing himself up from the couch with a fluid motion. He extended a strong hand towards my mother, who gracefully accepted the offer, her emerald gown swishing gently with each tentative step. I immediately rose from my seat, eager to assist my mother in any way possible. My fingertips tingled with anticipation as I positioned myself attentively at her other side, hoping to alleviate any discomfort she may have felt. A soft chuckle escaped my mother's lips, her voice as melodious as a whispering stream. Her eyes, the warm hue of cinnamon, glittered with amusement. "There is no need for all this, you know," she playfully remarked, her words laced with affectionate exasperation. "No, we have to make sure everything is going to be okay," Father said seriously, his deep voice resonating with determination. I nodded in agreement, the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders like a reassuring embrace, earning my mother another laugh. Helste's family was waiting for us at the dining table when we arrived. Each of us took his seat and started eating while we were talking. After finishing dinner, I went to the room prepared for me with my parents, and after making sure that everything was fine they left. I lay on a bed and quickly fell asleep deeply. I woke up slowly, my eyelids fluttering as I gradually became aware of the soft, golden light streaming through my bedroom window. The room was bathed in a warm glow, and I could feel the gentle caress of the sun's rays on my face, bringing a sense of tranquility to the morning. As I stretched my arms and legs, I savored the sensation of tension melting away from my muscles, allowing my body to fully awaken. I noticed that the window was slightly ajar, the velvet curtains draped over it fluttering like waves on beach. As I looked outside the window, I noted that the weather today was beautiful and refreshing, with a clear blue sky and warm breeze blowing that intruded through the windows. The blue sky was clear, with only a few patches of fluffy white wandering about like lost travelers in a desert. Less than good morning, master. Greater than less than good morning, Rimuru. Greater than. Seal and Sylvia said at the same time when I sat down. The two have gotten so close lately, and sometimes I feel like they're planned something. Though it was likely just my imagination running wild. Greater than good morning, both of you. Less than with a newfound energy. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood up, indulging in a long, luxurious stretch. A yawn escaped my lips, a testament to the peaceful slumber I had just emerged from. I made my way to the bathroom, the cool tiles beneath my feet providing a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the morning sun. As I splashed my face with water and went through my morning hygiene routine, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. Despite my efforts to wake up fully, my reflection still betrayed the signs of just having risen from sleep. Returning to my room, I retrieved the clothes I had prepared the night before from the depths of my dimensional ring. The fabric felt soft against my skin as I dressed, the colors and texture carefully chosen to match the mood of the day. Once ready, I left my room, my footsteps echoing softly in the hallway. The usual bustle and excitement that greeted me upon waking was conspicuously absent today. Instead, I could hear only faint sounds in the distance, like a distant melody carried on a gentle breeze. The hallway was hushed, save for the occasional whistle that resonated as the wind playfully passed through an open window. As I approached the kitchen, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the tantalizing scent of a hearty breakfast wafted through the air, mingling harmoniously. The employees of the place were engaged in their culinary creations, their movements orchestrated with practiced precision. The clatter of utensils and the sizzle of ingredients filled the room, creating a symphony of culinary delight. Leaving the kitchen behind, I ventured further into the back of the place, where a vast, open field sprawled before me. It was a sight to behold. The backyard was grand in scale, reminiscent of a miniature forest with its lush greenery and towering trees, though it paled in comparison to the expansive gardens of the royal palace. Without hesitation, I embarked on my daily exercise routine. The soft earth beneath my feet cushioned my steps as I jogged across the yard, my lungs filling with the crisp, invigorating air. I engaged in a series of push-ups, sit-ups, and various other exercises, the weight of the dumbbells crafted by Seal providing a satisfying resistance to my movements. After nearly 2 grueling hours of intense physical training, my body had reached its limit. Every muscle ached, and my energy was depleted. Collapsing onto the ground, I stretched out my tired legs and placed my hands behind me for support. The exertion had left me drenched in sweat, and I longed for respite. As if in response to my fatigue, a brisk, warm wind swept through the garden, gently tousling my hair and providing a comforting warmth. The wind carried with it a welcome relief, cooling the dampness on my skin and soothing my overheated body. Summoning my mana, I channeled it through a ring I wore, activating its enchantment. With a thought, I conjured a small towel and infused it with water magic. The towel became damp, and I proceeded to wipe away the perspiration that clung to my face and body. The cool touch of the wet fabric against my skin revitalized me, washing away the weariness and revitalizing my feelings. Feeling refreshed, I slowly rose to my feet, determination flickering in my eyes. I was about to put into practice a skill that Hakuro, my mentor, had recently taught me, haze. Haze was an advanced technique, an improved version of formhide. It operates in stages, gradually eliminating any trace of my presence. First, I needed to eliminate sound, rendering myself completely silent. Next, I would erase any lingering scent, masking my odor. Then, I would cloak my body temperature, making it indistinguishable from the surrounding environment. Finally, I would dissipate my aura and spirit, rendering myself undetectable even to those with accelerated magical senses. The only defense against haze is pure intuition. Closing my eyes, I entered a state of deep concentration. The wind whispers around me, and I focus on using my wind magic to mask any sound that I might unintentionally create. It would have been ideal to employ sound magic, but unfortunately, I had not yet mastered that particular skill. With my eyes tightly closed, my teeth clenched, and my hands balled into fists, I could feel beads of sweat rolling down my face, their plops audible as they landed on the blades of grass beneath me. Suddenly, a voice echoed in my mind, interrupting my focus. It was Sylvia. Her voice carries a hint of excitement as she spoke, capturing my attention. Less than I know a skill that will be of great benefit to you. Greater than Sylvia's voice reverberated in my thoughts. Less than it's a spell called Mirage Walk. Originated from one of the clans on my continent. This spell allows you to move undetected, creating illusions of yourself walking in multiple directions. It erases your mana signature in usage, making it nearly impossible for others to sense your presence. Greater than. Intrigued by Sylvia's revelation, I eagerly directed my attention towards her, signaling my desire for her to continue. Less than by carefully balancing the output of mana from your core through your mana channels and the intake of mana from the atmosphere through your mana veins. This equilibrium renders you essentially invisible to those who rely on sensing mana fluctuations to detect others. Greater than. Intrigued by her explanation, I nodded in understanding. I see. Let's give it a try, then. Without wasting another moment, I focused my energy and began to experiment with the intricacies of Mirage Walk, hoping to master this elusive skill and expand my repertoire of abilities. My mana veins were naturally underdeveloped in comparison to my mana channels, so I started by matching the quantity of mana I could enter to the amount of mana I could output. It resembles the process of learning mana rotation, but exponentially more challenging. The more I practiced, the intricacies of this endeavor became increasingly apparent. Even during moments of stillness, I found myself engaged in a delicate dance, delicately balancing the opposing forces of absorption and expulsion. I sought to attain a state of perfect balance, where the ebb and flow of mana harmonized flawlessly within me. Yet, the prospect of achieving such harmony while in motion felt akin to scaling an entirely different mountain altogether. However, for someone like me, who had already learned to control Azathoth, the most formidable and elusive skill of all. This new technique appears relatively straightforward. It took me years of relentless practice and unwavering determination to master Azathoth without the aid of CL's guidance. Thus, as I embarked on the path to mastery of this new technique, I couldn't help but draw strength from my past triumphs. As the world around me fell into a hushed stillness, I focused my attention on the mana coursing through my hands and legs, carefully concealing its presence. Just as I had predicted, it remained undetectable, veiled from prying eyes. The next step was to move with purpose, to infuse every step and gesture with the subtle flow of mana. It required a heightened awareness of my body's movements, a synchronicity of mind and muscle. Drawing upon the wellspring of mana within my core, I willed a small flame to ignite upon my palm. It flickered to life, but my mastery over this technique still remained incomplete. Intriguing thoughts began to surface, contemplating the intriguing possibilities that could arise from combining this skill with illusion magic. Less than mastering the mirage walk technique so easily, and even thinking of upgrading it. Sigh, your ability to adapt and learn still amazes me greater than he. You're embarrassing me. Less than a bashful smile tugged at the corners of my lips as I gently rubbed the back of my head with a hand, the residue of mana tingling against my skin. Wow. You can use magic. A high-pitched, childish voice interrupted my conversation with Sylvia. I turned around and saw Lilia standing there, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Her voice was filled with wonder and awe as she looked at me, her small hands clutched tightly together in anticipation. Can you do something else? She asked eagerly, her eyes shining like stars, just like Milam's whenever she saw something fascinating. I smiled gently at her and nodded, captivated by her infectious enthusiasm. Of course, I replied, my voice warm and reassuring. I raised my hand, feeling the comforting surge of energy coursing through my veins, and conjured a small flame, shaping it into various intricate patterns that danced in the air around us. The flames flickered and swirled, mesmerizing Lilia with their vibrant colors, casting a soft glow on her face. Then, with a wave of my hand, I conjured a gentle gust of wind that caressed her cheeks, ruffling her hair and creating a sense of weightlessness, before gently lifting her off the ground, causing her to float in the air. Lilia's eyes widened in amazement as she giggled with delight, her laughter echoing through the air. She reached out her hand, trying to touch the flickering flames, but they danced just out of her reach, teasing her playfully. What do you think? I asked, my voice filled with warmth, as I slowly lowered her back to the ground. It's amazing, she exclaimed, her face beaming with joy. But her expression quickly changed, and a hint of sadness crossed her features, momentarily dampening her vibrant spirit. What's the matter? I asked, surprised by the sudden shift in her mood. Lilia's voice turned slightly gloomy as she spoke, her words laced with a touch of vulnerability. My parents can't use magic, so there are very few chances for me to awaken my mana core. She sighed softly, her shoulders slumping. But I've always dreamed of becoming a mage and making mommy and papa happy. Her pouting face tugged at my heartstrings, and I couldn't help but find her adorable. I pondered for a moment, my mind racing with possibilities. In this world, the process of awakening one's magical abilities was typically hereditary, and there was a high risk of not awakening at all. While I had taught Kyle and the others about the workings of the mana core, it only accelerated their awakening process, as they would have eventually awakened on their own. However, Lilia had slim chances of becoming a witch without outside help. Hey, Lilia, I began, my voice gentle yet full of hope. If you want, I can teach you how I awakened my own magic at such an early age. I reached out to brush a strand of hair behind her ear, wanting to offer her reassurance. But let's keep it a secret from your parents. Lilia tilted her head, looking curious. Why? She asked innocently, her eyes searching mine for an answer. Don't you want to surprise them? I said slyly, a mischievous twinkle in my eye. While that was indeed one of the reasons, I also wanted to keep my abilities hidden from the world, especially my proficiency in using the 4 elements. Of course, I would make an exception for those I trusted. Her eyes widened, and a mischievous grin spread across her face, mirroring my own. So, how do we do it? She asked eagerly, her gaze filled with anticipation. It's quite simple actually, I explained, my voice soft and calming. First, I want you to sit down in a comfortable position. She did as I said, settling herself on a nearby patch of soft grass, her little legs crossed beneath her, and I knelt down beside her. Though it would help her, I'm not sure she'd have the patience to wait. After all, I'm asking a 4-year-old to sit still for long periods. Okay. That's how it will be. I'm going to inject you with mana little by little in your back, so we can at least open up your mana channels a little bit, I continued, my fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air to illustrate my words. I could see her tiny face furrowing in concentration as she absorbed the information. Okay. Got it? Lilia replied, her excitement still evident as she closed her eyes, placing her trust in me completely. I started to slowly inject mana into her, with Lilia's mana channels being very thin and undeveloped, like fragile tendrils waiting to be nurtured. With a gentle touch, I reassured her, urging her to relax and take a deep breath. Remember, Lilia, your mana channels are not naturally developed, so it's normal to feel some discomfort. But I will proceed slowly, I whispered, my words aimed at soothing her nerves. She emitted faint, pained murmurs, evidence of the mana's entry into her body. As I continued the infusion, my fingers tracing the intricate patterns of her mana channels, I noticed her distress. It was evident in the quiver of her voice, the tension in her muscles. Leaning closer, I maintained one hand on her back, providing a comforting presence, while the other tenderly caressed her hair, offering solace amidst the discomfort. Try to focus, Lilia, I encouraged, my voice imbued with gentle support. If you concentrate, you might begin to see glimmers of light. Can you see any? A hint of disappointment colored her shaky reply. I can't see any light. Reassuringly, I spoke, my words laced with empathy. Don't worry, it takes time. We'll try a different approach. Take a deep breath and trust me. I may need to infuse more mana, and it might be momentarily painful. Endure it, and you'll be rewarded. With her consent, I injected a surge of mana into the designated area on her back, causing her to emit louder sounds of anguish. I winced in sympathy, but my focus remained steadfast on guiding her toward progress. Suddenly, a burst of joy escaped Lilia's lips. And now, I'm seeing the lights. They're so pretty. Her face lit up with a radiant smile, mirroring the beauty she witnessed within. Excellent, I murmured, my voice filled with pride and satisfaction. Now, let's move on to the next step. Can you spot a light that stands out, slightly larger and brighter than the others? Lilia nodded, her eyes alight with newfound excitement and determination. Good. Focus on that light, and slowly guide it towards the larger one, I instructed, my voice a gentle whisper, as if sharing a secret. She absorbed my words, her concentration intensifying. Satisfied with her progress, I gradually ceased the mana infusion, yet maintained my hands on her back, providing a stabilizing presence. I inquired if the lights were still visible, and her affirmative response solidified my conviction in her burgeoning abilities. With a gentle retreat, I withdrew my hands, allowing her a moment of respite. As 15 minutes of diligent practice passed, I could feel the weight of time pressing upon me, signaling that it was time to conclude the session. Just as I was about to instruct Lilia to cease her efforts, my father unexpectedly materialized in the backyard, his presence betraying a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. Good morning, what are you guys up to? He inquired, his voice laced with intrigue. Casting a quick, knowing glance at Lilia, we exchanged silent understanding before I responded, my casual tone yet tinged with a hint of secrecy. Oh, nothing much, father. I was just sharing some magic tricks with Lilia here. He raised an eyebrow, a glimmer of curiosity flickering in his eyes. Well, then, breakfast is ready. They're waiting for us at the dining table. Acknowledging his words with a nod, I turned to Lilia, a shared smile passing between us. Gracefully, we rose from our spots on the grass, dusting off any remnants of the earth that clung to our clothes, and made our way back inside the house. As we settled ourselves around the dining table, the warmth of the morning sun streaming through the windows, Vincent sought to fill the air with conversation. So, what do you have planned for today? We were actually thinking of going to the market to buy some new clothes for my mother revealed, her voice laced with gentle concern. In an instant, my face turned pale, and a wave of anxiety washed over me. The mere thought of venturing into the bustling market, and becoming the girl's dress-up doll again, sent shivers down my spine. Panic began to rise within me, but I quickly attempted to salvage the situation. I don't think we should worry about that, I interjected, my voice betraying a hint of desperation. I actually bought some clothes before I came here, and the elves were kind enough to gift me a few garments as well, I hastily explained, hoping to dissuade my family from pursuing this dreaded shopping expedition. My mother's gaze softened, but a note of concern lingered in her eyes. But, my dear, it would be rather peculiar for a human child to saunter through town in elven attire, she gently pointed out, her words punctuated by a knowing smile. Meanwhile, my father and Vincent, mischievous grins plastered across their faces, seemed to relish the impending spectacle. A heavy sigh escaped me as I contemplated my impending fate. Don't worry, I reassured them, attempting to inject a semblance of confidence into my voice. I simply won't venture outside, so there's no need to worry about anyone seeing me. Reluctantly, my mother relented, though she issued a final plea. All right, dear, but do let me know when you're running low on clothes, she requested, her concern palpable. I nodded in acknowledgement, inwardly breathing a sigh of relief for having narrowly evaded the impending inferno of embarrassment. The sound of Seal and Sylvia's laughter filled my head, their amusement at my predicament evident for all to see.